Wow, this is amazing. It's not all lollipops and roses.
Hello, welcome to our channel. We're all about sharing our adventures and experiences around our homestead and off-grid cabin here on our 40 acres in the wilderness of Ontario, Canada.
We enjoy life around the cabin, exploring, canoeing, hiking, campfire cooking, gardening, and sharing our love of nature.
If you haven't done so yet, consider subscribing and click the little notification bell so you won't miss anything. Right here on Cabin Life with Glenn and Maureen.
Yeah, let's use this spot here, Maureen. I think this is as good as any.
Okay.
We've got a little log here that we can use. I think that's a good way to go. You can tie Jake up way back that big tree behind us. Yeah. Hey, folks. I'm Glenn.
I'm Maureen.
There's Maureen over there. Welcome to the channel. Today we have been out hiking in the back 40 of our property, back in the bush, and we're going to have a little bit of a break here before we get to the cabin, which is about 2 hills over. Jake is with us, and he's sniffing around, content as can be. I got a fire can and instant fire today, so I felt that I didn't really want to have to go into fire building through the bush right now today with the fresh snow that we've had. So instead, I've got my fire pack, and if you want to see what these are made of and see how they burn, check out this episode right here.
Nice. Now, we're going to talk to you today about looking at off-grid versus on-grid, and give you a few points for those who are looking towards starting an off-grid lifestyle.
I think we've got about 5 points and a few bonus tips as well throughout the video to share. Yeah, on-grid and off-grid. Those of us that live the on-grid lifestyle actually are sometimes surprised when some of the services go out. We do often tend to take those for granted, whereas when you're living off-grid and maintaining those services and infrastructure yourself, you're actually much more aware of it, of maintaining those things, and much more appreciative of when they do go out, and you can get them back on at a moment's notice, as opposed to when you're on grid, having to call up, for the electricity or water or what have you. So
that brings us to point 1, know your why, because when you're living off-grid, there can be a lot of challenges at times. So know your why so that you know exactly what you're getting into, and that it's definitely worth it because of why you're doing it.
Number 1, know your why. Maybe we could have that apple bumble crumble that we'll put on top of here if we could, Maureen. That would be great. And get that heated up while we're...
I'm usually waiting for the fire to
no,
build a little bit
this
more.
is instant fire today.
It's like,
and isn't that great, guys?
Coffee.
So we've got coffee here. And number 1, know your why. Why would you like to move off-grid? Why would you like to do the off-grid thing? Sometimes it doesn't require moving. You could be on-grid and then create an off-grid experience. So whether you're trying to escape the city or escape to something, you may be trading in one kind of stress for another. So that is something definitely to keep in mind.
So if you're looking to move off-grid and you want to learn more about buying land and finding your dream property, check out this link to the series Buying Land and Finding Your Dream Property. And point number 2 is knowing your personal abilities, your limits, and your comfort zone.
Many of those looking for an off-grid experience really need to take into account and assess their own measure of ability to overcome challenges, whether that be your financial ability, your physical ability, emotional stability, all of that, because you want to make things as smooth as possible when you do that transition into an off-grid lifestyle. Wow, that is heating up nicely.
I can smell it.
I can smell it too.
And I saw a meme the other day. It was kind of interesting. A lady was saying to her child, you know, putting your phone down while you're eating dinner is not living off grid. That younger generation nowadays.
Yeah.
Eh?
Time for some coffee. Woo! That's getting warm.
Remember when we were living in the van waiting for our homestead?
Yeah. We just sold our house, packed up all of our stuff. We minimalized right down to about 30% of our belongings, put all that in storage, and left all of our camping and outdoor gear that we'd need for camping and whatnot. Left that to the end, packed that all into the van, and we lived in the van camping for about a month. And we thought we'd be able to endure that while we were waiting for our homestead to be built and for some legal T's to be crossed and all that type of stuff. And it took longer than we expected, so we ended up going from the van to an RV, which was bigger and more spacious. We lived in that for a month, and it started getting very cold at night. This was in the fall, and it was threatening snow, and it was frosty at night, and it was just too cold for my comfort zone. And
For mine too.
we decided that it was time, as soon as the land actually became ours, the deed was ours, it was time for us to acquire the land, and we had the cabin built, and we moved in immediately the day after the cabin roof was put on. It snowed that night, and all of our stuff was in the cabin, and that was quite an experience. For 4 months we lived in the cabin, completely off-grid. We had battery power for some lights, and you know, hauled in our drinking water and all that stuff all winter long. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So that was our experience in being inoculated into the off-grid lifestyle, which we did not anticipate. We thought we were just going to be camping for a while.
That brings us to point number 3, is shelter. Choosing your shelter. When you're thinking about you're going off grid and making your plans. And my suggestion, I think it's our suggestion, would be make certain that the shelter that you choose is going to do what you need it to do. It's going to be the right size. It's going to be big enough. It's something that you'll be able to enjoy and withstand. Like for us, we thought camping in the van, that's all right because we've done it lots of times. But we've done it for I think maybe 2 weeks at the most. Well, when it came to doing it for a month in the winter, that was just a little bit longer than either of us were comfortable doing.
Yeah.
And the same with the RV.
So the size of your home is really important that you decide to go in. If you can in your own comfort zone be comfortable with a smaller place, then that's one thing. But if you have to deal with family members and everything else, that's something else to definitely take into consideration, their comforts as well. Your endurance level may be, or tolerance level might be a lot higher than other members in the family. So you do have to take that into consideration as well.
Mm-hmm. So when you're thinking about your shelter, the square foot area of it, the different systems that you need to put in, which is point number 4, the systems for what systems you'll need for your house or your homestead or your cabin.
So yes, some of the systems.
I think we both agree on this one. Our number one priority when we started into our adventure changing over from our previous home to this, to our homestead, was heat. We wanted to be warm. Regardless of what we were going to be doing, heat was the number one thing. And we ended up going with a nice propane heater.
We decided that even though we were in the middle of the forest and we had our cabin built, and normally we would have put in a wood stove right away. However, just moving on to the land, we had not cut enough wood into firewood usable sizes that we could use that for wood burning, because it would take a full year for that wood to season. So it wasn't practical to try to have a wood stove right off the bat, and we needed warmth. So it was a propane wall-mounted heater that was thermostatically controlled, no electricity needed.
Vented outside.
Does the job just fantastic.
Yeah. And then there's the water, your drinking water and the water you use for cleaning. And we hauled all of our water in. And that was a lot of water we hauled.
Yeah, we hauled all of our water from a natural spring, and having to haul it up the cabin hill, that was a chore, and that was something that you could sustain for a certain amount of time. We did it for the 4 months, and I suppose that we could have continued doing that as time went on. Had we stayed in the cabin and made the cabin our homestead, we would have done things a lot differently. But that's what we did, and that's what we contend with. That's part of the off-grid lifestyle.
Yeah, and refrigeration is another important point. Even in the winter, refrigeration is an important consideration, because in the winter, even though you think, oh, it's cold outside, well, you don't want to freeze your food, but you don't want to have it too hot inside. So we had set up a system where we could monitor it, and we used 2 coolers, which kept our food under the proper temperatures. But if we had known or that we were going to be in the cabin for an extended period of time, then we would have changed things up, and I would have gone for a refrigerator, because we did own a generator. So we could have just ran the generator once a day to keep the fridge cool, and that would have been a lot more convenient.
Yeah.
And now, speaking of the generator, power. How are you going to have power at your off-grid cabin? Because you do need to have power. Now, solar isn't the only thing that you need. Solar isn't the only type of power generation that you could use. There's lots of alternative ways that you could generate your own power, or power the things that you need. A lot of people think off-grid, they automatically think towards solar power, but there's a lot of alternative ways of generating power as well. Like, well, there's a generator, there's a windmill, and there's water generation as well, all depending on what you want to do will determine what type of power generation you use.
That's right.
Now, in the cabin for us, we use a generator usually just once a day, enough to recharge some batteries and that. But our lights, we had solar lights for the inside, and we also had some battery powered lights as well. And they did really well. That's for the 4 months, that's what we did. Now, point number 5 is keep in mind that whatever you decide to do, is it sustainable? Is it something that you want to do for the length of time that you're going to have to do it? Like for us, we thought, yeah, no problem. We can camp in the van. That's really cool, which it was, but that is not a sustainable option, the same as staying in an RV for us.
Right.
For other people, I know of other people that have lived in an RV over the winter, power to them. But when it got to that cold, it was time for us to move out.
It was an old RV. It was leaky. It wasn't airtight kind of a thing, and it was extremely cold. We appreciated having it as for the time that we did, but it was definitely time to get under a solid, good metal roof and nice warm shelter with all the heat and everything else.
Yeah, the RV. By the way, the RV wasn't heated.
Right.
So. So make sure that whatever you choose to do is sustainable for the amount of time. Like a lot of people who go off-grid, they do it in steps. Like they'll build a cabin and now they're putting an addition on, and develop their homestead a bit at a time. But remember, make sure that whatever you decide to do and whatever the time frames are, that it is sustainable for the amount of time that you're going to be doing it.
Right. So you can camp for a sustainable amount of time, a weekend, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, a couple months. That starts to not be sustainable, right? You can live in a van for 3 weeks, a month, a couple months, maybe a year. Maybe you can handle living in a van full time, and all the more power to you if that is your lifestyle that you choose to do. Definitely chase your dream, and all, it's not all lollipops and roses though. Right?
No. And it also, too, depends on where you are in the world compared to other people. Like, there's some people that don't get snow and get winters like us. So it totally changes their opportunities that they have available.
Right. Van life for us would be totally different in the winter. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Glenn, did you hear about the gardener who planted a light bulb in his garden?
No, what about the gardener that planted a light bulb in his garden?
He wanted to see if he could grow it into a power plant.
Oh.
You know, power plant light bulb.
Oh.
Ooh.
The main thing is enjoy your journey and enjoy the process of learning, doing the research, finding out what will work for you, what your limitations are, and chase your dream, go after your dream, and keep it in front of you and have a good plan so that you're not caught off by surprise.
Yeah. Yep, that's so true. If you want to learn more about growing a garden in the forest, check out this video here. Glenn, did you hear about the guy that decided he wanted to put in his own windmill?
No, what about the guy? Oh, that guy that wanted to put in his own windmill. Yeah, he thought it would be a breeze.
And then he got blown away by it.
That's all for this one. We'll see you next time. I'm Glenn.
I'm Maureen.
Over and out.
Take care.